empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to Scoop World Order. We are live. It is Monday night. We are in the middle of winter conditioning. Football is almost back, ladies and gentlemen. We've got about 2 weeks to go, and it's going to be cranked up for spring football. I know everybody can't wait to see the new look Buckeyes, how do the new quarterbacks look. Winter conditioning is going on. Mat drills, the worst time of the year to be on the football team because you're getting the crap beat out of you every morning, and then you get to come back and lift in the afternoon. So that is pure misery. But yeah, there's nothing better. Nothing makes the team harder than a really hard winter workout. So this is something that it's got to happen. They're putting the screws to these kids. They're getting them all ready to rock, and it's gonna be excited to see who grabs the brass ring during spring football because there are a lot of spots that are up for grabs, and that makes for an exciting spring football. That being said, as always, we're very thankful. We're very grateful for you guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. As always, we're going to take your questions. We're going to talk about the best of the Midwest Combine, which took place today. We're going to talk a little bit about some stuff that the staff does this time of year in terms of self-scout, in terms of reaching out to other coaching contacts to see kind of how they can improve, see where they're deficient, see how they can fix it. This is the time of the year where you do a lot of evaluation leading into spring ball, and you also explore new concepts that you could potentially put into your package. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like, click subscribe, comment down below. What would you change about Ohio State's offense or defense? Do you want more zone cover? Do you want more zone coverages? Do you want more inside tight zone, more read option? Put it down in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. You guys get to be Ryan Day for a night. So you guys go ahead and write it and get those questions fired up. That being said, bring in my good friend, Nevada. Nevada, how are you tonight?
Doing great. Feel like an Ohio State football player. It's just gone through mat drills and on the recovery end. But I know the guys are working hard out during the winter. It's generally those guys that work the hardest during the winter. Get that head start into the spring ball and get that cultivated into the fall. So it's a great time of the year. And it's a great time to be a Buckeye fan.
Yeah, and mat drills are generally terrible, but it is something that every player gets evaluated on. There's generally a staff meeting after every mat drill where they kind of run through each guy by position, how they do, how many wins did they have, how many losses did they have, because they usually get paired up with somebody and they do competition stuff on agility days. Other days with mat drills, it's more of just test your metal, see how tough you are, see if you ever tap out type of thing. They really put the screws to you, but it's good. And you get to see kind of, how tough kids are, how, will they quit on you, in the fourth quarter type thing. So I always love seeing young guys, see how they react. These kids are getting to be in better and better shape when they report. So there's a lot of kids that, they're really lean, especially the linemen. Steve Rain came in his freshman year in winter, and he was very heavy, and he was struggling madly during mat drills. So the one thing I always tell these kids when I talk to them or meet them or whatever is I say, look, I don't care if you lift at all if you're an offensive lineman, but make sure you run a lot, because when you show up for winter workouts, man, they're going to run the crap out of you. And it sucks. So I was lucky. I was always light and lean, and it really helped. It helped the conditioning drills be a little more bearable. They still suck, but it's a lot easier when you're lighter and you're in good shape. Nevada, your thoughts, we had some guys that are standing out, some of these young alphas, but what do you think is the most important part to the conditioning leading into spring ball?
Well, like you said, it's really kind of a chance for guys to separate and really to kind of see what you've got. Who the people are that really put in the work, really trying to make a move and try to grab a spot. And one of the things that's been notable, and one of the things that's been said to me time and time again, is about the three young offensive linemen that have come in and what tremendous shape these guys have all been in. And I think it goes back to something you're saying. You guys are not coming in overweight. They're not coming in out of shape. They're not coming in unprepared. They kind of know, they get the program from Mickey Marotti, 3 months, 4 months, 5, 6 months in advance. So they know exactly what they're going to be expected to be able to do when they hit the field here. And those three young offensive linemen, Stierwald, Montgomery, and Padilla all came in and are all in really good shape. Are all, from a strength standpoint, from an agility standpoint, from a fitness standpoint, they all looked really good. And that's really something that's an A+ for the class. That's something that's really an encouraging sign. And, like you said, guys are not coming into this unprepared. They've got personal trainers, they've got training programs, they know what to expect. Marotti's creating that expectation before they hit the field, before they hit Ohio State, and they've come in great shape and really are going to be in a position to have a really productive spring and hopefully a productive fall when 2023 rolls around.
Yeah, I like I said, I saw Tigger last year. It was around August. He reported. He was heavy last year. Not before he reported, but he really leaned down. I mean, I'm sure that he's probably still about 320ish, but he was a lot less pudgy. And again, that's something that's pretty natural when you get into the strength program. I think Traylor lost something like 60 pounds. When you got into the strength program, just because if you're heavy, they're going to get it off you. They're going to try to figure out how to convert that into muscle. And honestly, it's a very arduous and grueling process. It's a lot of extra cardio, a lot less, sugars and starches and the stuff that everybody likes to eat and enjoy and drink. So we when we got there, or in 12, when I was retained by Urban, the first edict was all the offensive linemen have to lose weight and get skinnier, not skinnier, get leaner. Skinny is not the right word. Leaner, like less fat, more muscle. So then we had these guys on 6 days a week of extra cardio, 30 minutes on it could just be the elliptical or whatever, depending on who it was. And Stairmasters are always churning. So it's a great time of the year because you kind of get to see who really wants it. And the thing that I love is there's a lot of open spots, because I feel like when there's open spots, there's more hunger throughout the team, because the O line is pretty wide open outside of a couple spots. The quarterback derby is obviously wide open. I think that the receiver room is actually pretty wide open as well, because if you look at the top three guys, none of them are going to do anything this spring. I mean, two have already been declared out, and Marvin's not going to do anything just because he's so good. He doesn't really need to. So, it's almost like it's the 2024 spring for some of these young wide receivers, where all those guys are going to be gone. Julian's a senior. The other two are going to declare for the draft. So, it's like start your engines and get ready to race. If you're Kieran Graves or, some of these other kids that are, they're going into year two, it's go time, because you've got some monsters nipping at your heels. It's not like a little puppy. You got full-fledged dogs coming, like Brandon Ennis, like Carnell Tate, like the Rogers brothers. You got some really substantial guys. And these are some guys that are going to be able to take advantage of reps they might not have normally gotten if the full cadre of receivers were all healthy. So that's something that I look forward to seeing. Which young guys step up? Are any of these young guys scared of going against Denzel Burke or going against some of these, these older corners that have played in big games, and they're the wide-eyed guys that either redshirted or didn't play, or they're in high school last year. So that'll be exciting. Literally the only downside is that I don't think Hal McCord will be able to build any chemistry in a full 11-on-11 situation with our guys, because they're like I said, Emeka's out, Julian's out. Marvin's going to be held for most of the spring. So, he's going to be building chemistry with a bunch of young guys, but I don't think that's really going to matter, because once August hits, if Kyle's the guy, it's going to be a full-fledged workout to the hill. Nevada, what position are you, and you can even, if you want to even narrow it down to center, left tackle, nose guard, corner, safety, adjuster, bandit, nacho cheese, whatever position you want to call it. What position are you specifically excited about for the spring ball position battles?
Well, for me, if I had to pick one, if maybe get that specific, I'd say the center. I want to see who Ohio State rolls out there at center. They've got a lot of options. I think that's the anchor of the line, as you well know. Here I am telling the All-American about offensive line play, but the center to me is the most interesting position, because I think it kind of dictates what everything else goes on, and it dictates who plays right guard. It dictates probably who's sliding out to tackle, who's not, who's the first man up, who's the sixth man in terms of the rotation. And what I love about Ohio State this year is that they've got lots of options in terms of doing that. There's about 4 or 5 guys they could probably slide into that position. I wish Jacob James was healthy so he could be battling in there as well. But I think Ohio State, the center battle to me, kind of an unheralded battle, not the high profile thing, but for me, I think it's going to be a really, really interesting thing. And I think it's something that's going to change on a day-to-day and a week-to-week basis in terms of who the leader in the clubhouse is. And that's something I'm going to be keeping a careful eye on.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see if Victor Cutler truly can lock down the center position. Playing tackle last year, he doesn't strike me as a superhuman strength guy. Just when I watch his tape, he doesn't seem like he's got a real powerful anchor. Something you'd really like your center to have. And again, I think Justin Fry's got a lot of confidence in Carson Hinsman. If he says he's going to leave Matt Jones at right guard, which is crazy unless he made some sort of deal and Matt just feels more comfortable at guard than he does center, and he feels like that's where his best draft potential is. I would have put Matt at center just because he's been there. He's a 6-year guy. The center is kind of the de facto leader of the line. I played with Olin Cruz, who's an NFL Hall of Fame level center, and the guy's got to be able to run the show, know the calls. And I'm sure Carson's been in the offense for a year now, so he's going to know everything cold, or he better. And it's going to be interesting to see who rotates where. Again, the thing that surprised me about the two guards thing, and again, this is a press conference from almost 3 weeks ago, so it's not exactly written in stone. But I just think that Justin, is probably still going to rotate guys in at center, try to find the best combination. Because the guy that it was surprising that it wasn't penciled in to start, at least on paper right now, is Enoch. Because Enoch, started the Michigan game, played guard. So it seemed natural that you'd put Matt at center and put Enoch at right guard where he started in the Michigan game, but I guess it's not to be. Does Josh Fryer get a true shot at left tackle, or do they stick him at right? Zen has played nothing but left tackle since he's been here predominantly, so I don't know if you want to disrupt their footwork when they've taken all those reps on the left and right side. But it's just one of those things where it's going to be real interesting to see, who goes where, how long do they stay there, and if somebody gets hurt, knock on wood, how do they adjust the line? If Zen Mikulski gets hurt, who comes in? Is it George Fitzpatrick? Is it Donnie Jackson? And then Enoch comes in. I'm just not sure. And, Enoch's, this is I believe this is his 5th year or so. If he's not penciled in as a starter after spring ball, then, you got to be on portal alert, which I'm not saying that he'd do that, but it's just, when you're a 5th-year guy and you've stuck around and you haven't transferred and you're, an Army All-American, you want to play. And I mean, he's been a good soldier. Started a game last year, with Josh Fryer started a game last year. So we got guys that have actually played in real games. They haven't just played in mop-up duty. So it's going to be fascinating to watch the combinations. And again, the great thing about spring is, you could think that you got all these combinations set and you've got these rotations done, and then one guy gets hurt or two guys get hurt or two guys get held out of practice and your rotations all go to crap. Because I lived that when I was the offensive line GA. And it's always exciting to see, who goes where. And coaching the offensive line in the spring is a nightmare at times because you're going against D linemen, and playing D line is always inherently much easier than offensive line, especially when it comes to pass rush and pass blocking. So, you're going to get some of these matchups with the second and third team versus, some really good, defensive tackles. And, it can get a little murky sometimes during the scrimmaging part. Nevada.
Well, Kirk, I think, we always like to kind of try to educate, our listeners, educate our people on our board. Let's talk about, like when people are looking at the depth chart for an offensive line and they look at it and they see, first team left tackle, second team left tackle, first team left guard, and they see, who's in the 2 deep. But that's not necessarily the way it works in terms of, who's the next man up. And why don't you go into kind of explain how that works in terms of, who actually is the depth position and who are the guys that kind of fill in if and when something happens on the offensive line and somebody goes down. Where do you find your depth? Where do you find your next guys, and how is that handled?
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, a fantastic, I guess, question for me. But generally, you try to figure out what, mentally, if you're Justin Fry, if each guy gets hurt mentally, where do you go? So if Zen Mikulski, if you're starting offensive line is Zen, Donnie Jackson, say Carson Hinsman for now, Matt Jones, and Josh Fryer. If Zen gets hurt at left tackle, what is your next best fit? Is it to kick Donnie out to left tackle and put Enoch in at left guard coming off the bench? Is it to flip Josh Fryer to left tackle and bring George Fitzpatrick or Teager off the bench? And then you kind of just work down the line. If Donnie gets hurt, obviously it's probably pretty easy. If Enoch's out in the starting lineup, he'd be the next guy in. That's pretty obvious. If Carson gets hurt, is it Cutler? Is it Matt Jones sliding in and Enoch coming in at right guard? So there's all these kind of gyrations that you deal with that you kind of experiment with in spring ball, and you kind of figure out who can play left and right side, who can play guard and tackle, who can snap and play center. And, again, and sometimes your depth in spring gets tested because, guys will get held out for injuries that aren't major injuries, just because it's spring ball and it's kind of meaningless, especially if you're a guy like Matt Jones and you get a hangnail, or Donnie Jackson and you get a hangnail, like you should be held out. Like there's no reason to get hurt during spring ball. But if you're these young guys and you got a hangnail, then you got to strap it up and get going because you haven't earned anything yet. But yeah, it's always interesting to see kind of how things switch around on the line, and that's something that I think that Justin Fry still has to figure out because he's got to see these kids against live bullets. Some of these kids have gotten stronger, faster. They're better than they were last year. They're more experienced. They're more relaxed. Especially the guys that were freshmen last year, like Carson, like George Fitzpatrick. Those guys are athletic dudes, but last year, it's tough because you're your first year in the system and you're learning the offense, and now you should know all that stuff cold, and now you can actually go out and compete and try to win a spot. So yeah, it's a fascinating question, and it helps when you have a guy that's like a Swiss Army knife that can play multiple spots. Like Josh Fryer can literally play anywhere except for center, I believe. So Jack Mewhort was probably the best it's ever been at Ohio State in terms of he could play left tackle to right tackle equally as well. He could snap as good as any center we've ever had. So Jack was a different beast, and there's not many guys that can do it, everything equally proficient. But yeah, that's a great question because I'm telling you, when you're the O-line in the spring, and you're already down Jacob James, and you've got guys that have graduated, you might not even have as many walk-ons because your walk-ons are critical in the spring. Because man, if you're running 3 groups and you got a bunch of guys that have to go with 2 different groups, they get gassed and tired and hurt, and you got to be able to try to patch it up as best you can. And put guys sometimes in positions they might not play just so you can fill up the 3 full lines. I mean, it's going to be 15 guys at least, and sometimes you can be a little short, especially with injuries. Is that good?
I love it. I mean, that was great. I mean, because I've always thought about it that way in terms of combinations as opposed to the 2 deep. It's really, it's really kind of, who's your first combination, who's your second combination, who's your third. And I think that's really, when people talk about Ohio State and why I'm not worried about the depth, it's because we've got so many guys that have played, so many guys that have started, so many guys that can fit in different spots right there that, we've got a lot of different, possible answers to those combinations. And, that equals offensive line depth. But while it may not be a traditional, 2 deep or 3 deep or, who's the 4th tackle for the 2026 class, I look at the Ohio State offensive line and see, lots of different combinations and lots of different possibilities. And that's why I'm feeling so good about the O-line. But I appreciate that explanation.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to my sister. She just got on here. So she said, hi, my guys. So, but yeah, it's really interesting when you go through this and you see, some of the stuff that's going on. Yeah, hang on 1 second, Nevada. I gotta switch my thing up. Hang on 1 second, guys. I gotta get these fixed. Type your questions real quick. Nevada, you got me?
I got you. Are we having a technical issue?
Well, yeah, my earpiece went out, but I can still hear you. There might be a little bit of an echo. But yeah, I was shouting out my sister. It's my mom's birthday tomorrow. Shout out to my mom.
Shout out, Mom. Hey, Mom.
Shout out, Mom.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because I always tell people that they they always get worried about tackles and depth and oh my God, who's gonna be the left tackle in 2028 or whatever. And it just never makes sense to me because, we generally never have more than 6, 7 guys that can play regardless, and I mean, I'm not saying guys that are in the room that can't play eventually, but on most of the lines I played on, it's like, if you got past 7 guys, man, you're screwed. I mean, you're playing a guy that really shouldn't be playing, that you're scared to death, and the offense could look like vomit if he goes in the game. So, the biggest thing is you just got to keep these guys healthy and just keep them right, and just do the best you can. And Mickey Marotti's fantastic about that. So, but yeah.
It was also I saw a fascinating kind of it was a study on games missed and injuries by position group, and the least games missed by position group were like the kickers and specialists. The second least was offensive linemen. And it's not, you're kind of intuitive, but when you think about it, while there's a lot of contact, it's not like the violent collisions that you're having out there at wide receiver. You've got the knee braces, you've got all the things that kind of keep the offensive linemen relatively safe. And that's why, I mean, think about how many years we've gone with Ohio State where we've never gotten past six guys playing meaningful minutes, or like you said, seven guys playing meaningful minutes. That's pretty much been the story of the last 20 years. I mean, has there really been a time in the last 20 years where guy 8 and 9 has made significant contributions to the offensive line at Ohio State?
No, I mean, outside of the year that we had all the suspensions in 2011, no. I mean, it's not typical. And I mean, I'm telling you, that's why, people like to be scared of ghosts and, oh my God, who's going to play if these guys get hurt, these guys get hurt. And, in the era of the transfer portal, I mean, depth is an absolute illusion, because you could think you have great depth and then a couple of these guys walk out the door, four guys declare early, and all of a sudden you're like, oh God, we don't have any depth. But that's just part of good recruiting. If you have really good recruiting, there's guys that are starters that are going to leave early, and there's guys that are backups that are going to have to start at 90 of the 130 schools in Division One. So they're going to go start somewhere. So again, that's just part of the gig. But yeah, I think that Mickey Marotti does such a great job of working on the range of motion, the flexibility, the strength training. That we do with these offensive linemen is unbelievable because we don't miss games. Like in 12, we started the same five guys every game. And again, these guys also, they get dinged up, they get hurt, but they're not like severely injured. And a lot of it's just is how well they're trained. And honestly, a lot of it's just they're just really tough guys. You know what I mean? Like Joe Thomas had some 10,000 snap streak. And that's one of the, people won't talk about that in the same breath as like Cal Ripken, but it's like a Cal Ripken kind of streak. You didn't miss a snap for 10, whatever the number is. Like it's some ungodly number of, 15 or 16 straight years in the NFL of not missing a snap. That's literally impossible to not get rolled up, to not get dinged, to not get a concussion. And I'm not saying that he didn't get rolled up, and he didn't, but he's just a tough dude. But that's just kind of, a lot of it comes down to your training. Like something that I wish that I would have focused more on was like ankle flexibility, because, if your ankles are flexible and you get rolled up, it's generally not that big of a deal. But if you got stiff ankles and you get rolled up, man, you're in a world of hurt. You're going to have a bad ankle sprain. And that's just something that, like if you've got young kids that are playing or you're trying to teach linemen, like get them on the ankle flexibility boards. I mean, there's slant boards they can stand on. There's bands you can get to help out. And again, it's something I wish I would have done more of as an injury prevention thing. And I think Mickey does a great job with their squat depth. A lot of the training stuff they do it's really for really good range of motion, not as focused on weight, obviously. And the guys, they look in fantastic shape. So kudos to Mickey Marotti, man, because he is the GOAT. Because I watched him, get all the fat off our guys in 12 and train the crap out of them and turn those guys into a bunch of monsters. So, and he's done it really every year since. That's why, again, I don't worry about our offensive line. Everybody else can worry about it. But I know when you've got Mick, and you got Justin Fry, we're going to be fine. Again, they love to be scared about the O-line, but I think that we're going to be really good. Any comments on that, Nevada? We got some great questions. Keep those questions coming, guys.
No, I agree. I think I put those two streaks on the line with the Nevadabuck streak of going out every night in Vegas for like 10 years. I think those are probably the three greatest streaks in the history of streaks. But, but I digress. That's probably a topic for another podcast another time.
We got the Ohio podcast. What's up, fellas? Guys, check out the Ohio podcast. They had me on as a guest last night. It was fantastic. Outside the wide receiver room, which room is in the best shape? That is a great question. Oh, man, it's hard because I want to say linebackers look really good, especially this year with Tommy, Steele, and then your backups are CJ and, and Cody Simon. I mean, that's pretty strong. For a year that was, that was a big question mark spot last year. Nevada, what are your thoughts on that? That's a great question.
I mean, the running back room is kind of embarrassing. And you know what I'm saying? So it's like, let's go Trey Henderson, Mayan Williams, Dallin Hayden, Chip, Xavier Johnson. Who am I missing? But it's a lot.
You said Chip Hayden, You got Mayan,
Maya and
Trey.
Trey, and I threw Xavier in there as my kind of my running back, my Swiss Army like running back. But yeah, we've got a lot of running backs. I mean, it's that's like I said. We've talked about this before, but we're literally returning 99% of our offensive passing production and 97% of our rushing production. So it's I haven't gone back and searched through the numbers, but I guarantee you there's never been a year in Ohio State history where it's been higher than that. And our offensive weapons are going to be absolutely ridiculous, and our defense is going to be great. I've said this before. I'm doubling down. I'm tripling down. I'm quadrupling down on our defense is going to be a sturdy unit. It's going to be a stingy unit. It's going to be an opportunistic unit, and that combination is going to be it's going to be a big year for Ohio State in 2023. You know, you hate to say national championship or bust, especially after you look at that embarrassing Georgia schedule. But yeah, it's going to take a mighty effort by somebody to beat Ohio State because Ohio State's going to be really, 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 really talented next year.
Yeah, I agree. This is a great question, RK. Well, I keep on to say Jamal Ballard because Jamal is his dad. His dad and I actually are in the same grade, and we would have gone to high school together, but he transferred to Massillon. Jaden Ballard be returning punts and kickoffs this year. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the deal was with Jaden last year. We got great reports about him during bowl practice, about how fast he looked, about how they were running some of these little gizmo plays like jet sweeps and that type of thing to get him the ball on the edge with his speed. But man, he just never plays. I mean, even when Marvin got hurt, he never played. And I would love more than anything in the universe to get Emeka off of punt returns because when he's playing 80% of the snaps, playing receiver, like it'd be nice to get him a blow and get him off the field for something. And plus, then you could throw someone else a bone to be the punt returner. But I just don't think they trust anybody. I mean, they put in, a walk on before Jaden, and Jaden did it in high school. So I don't know. Obviously, there's a trust thing there, and he's
Yeah,
muffing
yeah,
punts.
Kurt.
Go ahead.
Let's talk about that. Okay, punt. I've thought a lot about punts and punt returns just for a second, but it's kind of an underrated point. But punt returning is pretty much dead in the year 2023 with the sky punts, with the Aussie rollout kicker punting, and the way that they do it right now. It's really, really hard to formulate good punt returns. So one, you've got to accept the fact that you're probably not going to break the game open with punt returns the same way that you did with a Ted Ginn or with somebody back with a Neil Colsey or somebody who can really kind of turn the game on a punt return just by function of the way that teams are punting. So there go. The most important thing, the most important attribute, number one is you got to catch the punt. Don't let the punt hit the ground. Don't give up the big field position, and certainly don't fumble the punt. Because I remember the Clemson game where we lost to Clemson. When the streak of 3 games or whatever it was. Oh, we can't beat Clemson. That turned on a Philly Brown fumble on a punt. That game's over if he just catches the punt. So I would submit that the most important thing on that is having somebody back there dependable and catch it. And Emeka certainly fits that bill. So, I hate to disagree with the big man, but I'm like, I do not want somebody else back there but Emeka because, man, you got to catch the ball.
I'm good with it. Hey, I love disagreement, and honestly, that's a great point because you're right. I don't know if he returned one. I'm sure he might have returned one last year. I'm not gonna deal in absolutes because I'm not a Sith, but it's just one of those things where I think Emeka obviously is incredibly sure-handed. He's incredibly confident back there. When it's windy and gusty and rainy or whatever, he's just automatic. He's like Willie Mays out there. So he searches for the ball, sets his feet, catches it. And again, you're right. Like the punt is a dead play. And the other thing that you left out, which is amazing, just because of I know how you are, is teams go for it more on fourth down than they ever have. And I'm not just talking about like in the red zone. I'm talking about like they're close to the 50, man. These teams are going for it like crazy. So the punt is getting deleted from the game. The kickoff is getting deleted from the game. You're right. But, I just, I think that, this is a huge spring for Jaden. I mean, he's going to kind of be the de facto number one wide receiver if Marvin, Marvin, I'm sure will do a little bit of stuff, but the other two guys are completely out. So let's go, Jaden. It's your time now. We've heard a lot
Well,
about
that and I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I know you've had some firsthand experience in terms of actually trying to catch a punt. Catching a punt is impossible. Like no human being can catch a punt. Like when the ball's up there in the air and it's swirling and it's dipping and it's twisting, I don't know how anyone catches a punt. Now you've actually had the opportunity to try to actually go out and catch a punt. And why don't you share with the good people about the wonderful experiences you had with that?
Well, Urban had this like hairpin scheme where he wanted a bunch of us to go out and catch punts at like halftime of the spring game, and I was like, so it was like me, Jack Mewhort, like Schlegel, Zach Boren, and and it was a spring game, and it was a nice day out, so I was having some beers. Like I'm not gonna lie, so I go down there about half crocked, get my shades on, and I had fielded some on the jugs machine, and when you're out there in the shoe and you have a live leg that can spray it anywhere, and they do spray it ever. It's not like they just kick it right to you. Like a jugs machine will shoot it to you the same spot every time. That's like cake. This, I mean, you got to run to the ball, try to get under it, track it, catch it, and even if you're totally with it, like which I really wasn't, it isn't easy to do, So you're right. Like I mean, because it only takes one muff punt to ruin a season. So again, I can happily be wrong about leaving Emeka back there. And honestly, that's probably why he's back there. It's because they know he's not going to get hit. That's the same reason they put wide receivers on as gunners. They had Chris Olave as a gunner, because they know that, the gunners on punt generally don't have to hit anybody because they sky kick it and it's a fair catch. So they just run behind him and say a bunch of crazy, nasty stuff to the returner to try to get him to drop it. And if he does, then they're right there to recover it. So, but I love your point about Emeka. I think that you're probably right, but I'm just rooting for some of these guys to earn roles and earn their scholarship checks, because some of these guys are going on year 3, and it's time for them to go. So some of these guys got to be ready to rock. Is that a good backtrack? Is that a
Well,
good
well,
take slide?
did you actually even get a hand on the punt when the punt was live punted?
Oh yeah,
Did
no,
you even
I got a hand on it. I just didn't catch it.
what after it hit the ball, after it hit the ground, it was like bouncing or something like
No,
that?
it like went
You
it went through my hands. I had gloves on and everything. It was terrible.
really you actually
Oh
got to
yeah.
the ball and actually got
Oh
wow,
yeah.
man,
Yeah,
that's
I
good.
got there, but man, it's a lot harder when it's like an end over end kick, and it's like,
Oh,
I mean, the weather was perfect, so I'm not even blaming the weather. It wasn't even windy or anything or gusty, but and again, if you haven't done it a million times, it's hard to do it. If you've never been coached to do it, it's hard to do it. It was more just like a dumb thing that Urban wanted us to do, and I was like, I'll do it. I don't care. Like, what are they gonna do? Say, ha, he can't catch a punt? I'll be like, yeah, there's guys in the NFL that can't catch punts. They get cut on Mondays after games. Um, Keep the questions coming, guys. You guys got some good ones right here. What's up, Paul? Paul's in here like always. Appreciate you, my dude. Um, yeah, I love I want one-on-ones to rotate the quarterbacks. So I like this. Don't stop for the season. Veteran guys hit each other, drive the youngsters, polish DBs on the best play. Yeah, I agree. I think you need a lot of 1-versus-1 work, especially in the spring, especially when we're playing 3 cupcakes out of the gate before we go to Notre Dame. This is a great question. What do you look for in a slot corner compared to outside corners? Well, nickel corners are usually a little shorter, a little more change of direction, short area speed. You don't really want to put a longer, taller guy in the slot, just because you're generally going to go against a slot receiver. I mean, generally, you guys think of a slot receiver, you think of Wes Welker, you think of guys that are quick, short area quickness, and that's what you basically have to match that. So you don't want your 6'2" guy in there. You want those guys out on the edge, playing the traditional corner spot. We had Malcolm as a nickel in 05. He was really good at it. But if you've got your best corner, like, because the next year Malcolm was our number 1 corner and 07 is our number 1 corner, he's got to go out and cover the number 1 wide receiver and kind of travel with him. So, but yeah, I think your short area quickness guys are generally good nickels. So that's a fantastic question. Appreciate you, Dave. Any thoughts on that, Nevada?
well, yeah, I just think it's a completely different position. You think about Sean Wade, how effective Sean Wade was when he was playing, the slot corner in the nickel corner, and when he went out to the outside and had to be a number 1 traditional. I mean, he struggled. It definitely you create some different matchups, some different difficulties, and I personally I think playing defensive back in today's college football is just incredibly challenging. Probably the most challenging position on any field. You're going up against guys that know where they're going, that can run 4.3 40s, that have quarterbacks that are throwing to a spot, and you've got to go out there and try to cover these guys and not touch them. And I don't know how people do it. And I have so much respect for these guys, and especially these guys that are left out on the island, knowing that if you slip and fall, I see you, Lathan Ransom, that it's going to be a touchdown. And it's amazing it doesn't happen more often. And finding responsible defensive backs is really, you can really start looking at any defense. You start looking at the defensive backs to see, do they have guys that can cover? And that's why for Ohio State this year, to strike gold with the kid from Mississippi was such a huge step forward for this defense. It really took the defense from really good to next level, and adding a guy like Jihad Carter who can cover as well. But having responsible defensive backs, having guys in the slot, having guys on the outside, man, it's where the defense in 2023 all starts and ends. That's for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. I put out some Bryce West film. He was at the best of the Midwest Combine today in Indy. I'm surprised that a guy like this goes to a combine like that, but I think it's more because, Ted Sr. brings out his A-list guys just because it'll get the kind of the bigger national, the Steve Whitfongs, the national writers to show up to things like that. I don't like combines that aren't associated with universities. I mean, there's nothing, I don't have anything against them, but I think that some are better than others. But if you're a kid like Bryce who has every offer in America, I don't really think you need to show up other than Ted getting asked you to, so that the other Glenville kids can get exposure. But yeah, this is a kid that can do everything. He'd be a great slot guy, honestly. If you're looking for a slot corner, this kid's got outstanding speed, ability. He'll be a Buckeye. The tight end looks great, Jamarian Witten. So it's the Ville's kind of back a little bit now. I mean, they've got some, this is a 5-star guy that is as good as anybody in the country, right in Cleveland, kind of like Marshawn was when he came out of Glenville. But yeah, I'm excited because I think that the DB recruiting is kind of turning a corner. Again, we're getting some of these guys that can run and hit. I think it's this one where these guys are special. Like there's 2 really good corners in Ohio for 2024. 2 guys that I think we're going to get both of them. So, this kid's physical too, man. He does not back down, which is great. There's nothing I love more than a physical cornerback because they're not all created that way. Oh man, I got Scott, I agree. I think McCord's going to be the starter too. I had a Nevada question. I saw it. I got to go get it real quick. Apologize for this. I think my man Paul said that he's predicting a top 3 defense. Where have I heard that before, Nevada? Paul, my dude, on here every night. A top 3 defense, Nevada. Tasmanian Devils. What do you think about it, Nevada?
I think it's absolutely possible. I think this defense is going to be special, and I mean, you look at the improvement, and people want to talk about the bad things that happen with the defense, but if you look at the larger sample size, stay away from the small sample size groups. Like cherry pick this game or how we did in the second half of the fourth quarter against Michigan. You've got you made significant improvement. The third down efficiency was the second best in the past 25 years at Ohio State. That's how good it was. We went from 42% to 29% in one season, which is absolutely incredible. And when you're able to do that, you've got the foundation for something really special. And Ohio State, I'm telling you, JT and Jack Sawyer just taking just a lot of crap. I mean, those guys' stock is low on those guys. I'm buying that stock right now. I think they're going to have a breakout kinds of years. I think we're going to see what kind of players they can be, they were supposed to be, and they're both having big off seasons. They're both going to have big seasons in 2023. And if those guys break out, we generate that pass rush. Everything else kind of clicks off of that. We got the guys that can cover. We've clearly got the, like you said, an embarrassing, linebacker room right now. Find a couple guys on the interior defensive line, and boy, like I said, this defense is going to be special. I would not bet against. I would if I'm setting the line. I'm setting the line for Ohio State's defense is at 5, and the over under there, and I'm probably betting under. So I think it's going to be a special group. I think it's going to be a special year headed off by a very stingy OSU defense.
It'll be an exciting year. I'm excited to see these guys take the next step, especially the two third-year defensive ends in JT and Jack Sawyer. J Bags bringing up Parker Fleming. He is the official staff whipping boy, I believe, at this point. Ryan Day extending Parker Fleming an additional 2 years for $500,000 would be the dumbest decision had not be for Gene Smith extending Holtman an additional 3 years last season. Nevada, your thoughts on that, on the Parker Fleming extension?
Well, again, we've talked about this. Look, what's baked into the cake with Ryan Day is Ryan wants his guys. Ryan wants guys that are loyal to Ryan. Ryan wants to be surrounded by guys that will not rock the boat, that will kind of play by Ryan's rules, that will kind of go along with what Ryan wants to have happen, and that's what he's going to get. And you know something? I think as the head coach of Ohio State, you're entitled to do that. You're entitled to have your guys. If Ryan Day is going to get blamed for winning, losing, success, failure at Ohio State, then you know something? He has the right to do it his way, and he's doing it his way. And frankly, like I said, I'm no Ryan Day apologist. I've been kind of not sure exactly about Ryan Day if he's as good as people think that he is. But I think he really found himself in the game against Georgia. And I think that's going to pay huge dividends. But Ryan wants to have his guys, and that's what it is with Parker Fleming. Parker Fleming is a guy who's going to be absolutely loyal to Ryan for what Ryan has done to him in terms of advancing his career. And Ryan rewards that loyalty, and it's going to continue to happen. And just look for it. No team in the history of college football has promoted as many GAs as Ohio State has to full-time positions. I mean, it's the way Ryan Day wants to operate it, and you just get used to it. As long as he's here, that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah, it's and again, they're guys that have they know the system. He knows what he's getting. Mike Yursich came in 19, and he lasted 1 year with Ryan before he went off to Texas. So, I mean, I there's pros and cons to promoting from within. The pro is you obviously know what you're getting. The con is, you don't really get a big influx of new ideas when it's a bunch of guys that have been sitting in the same staff room for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it is. So, and again, when the offense is clicking the way it is, you might not need new ideas. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of impact the new guys have. Does it change the running game at all? I'm just looking for some highlights. I'll put some Jaden Davis on. So Bank thinks Jaden Davis is going to be our quarterback now in 2024. So this is, of all of the crazy things that have happened, the Jaden Davis thing is about as nuts as it gets, because he was going to be the guy, and then we kind of left him at the altar for Dylan Raiola, and then Dylan Raiola divorced us, and now we're back to Jaden Davis. Nevada, what would getting Jaden Davis do to this program? And again, with quarterbacks and Ryan Day, do you even care about who we get in recruiting anymore?
Well, that's it. It's a great point, and let's put it this way: I don't worry as much about that as I used to before, because I think that Ryan Day, whoever Ryan Day puts out there, whether it be Ryan Holst, the kid from South Dakota, or Devin Brown, or Cal McCord, or Jaden Davis, it's going to be capable. And I'll believe that until I see differently, until I see a guy go out there and Baker Mayfield it up there on the field. I think that we're going to be fine at the quarterback position. And I think with Jaden Davis, look, he's got to make a business decision. He got spurned by Ohio State. He got his feelings hurt, but then he's looking at it kind of going, I could go to Ohio State and be coached by Ryan Day, who, the last two guys that he's put out there have been Justin Fields, who's created generational wealth for the Fields family. What's Justin Fields going to make in his NFL career? $500 million or whatever it is. And CJ Stroud, who wasn't exactly a household name coming out of high school, and now is going to be a top 10 pick, top 5 pick, top 3 pick, whatever it is. And another guy who's going to create generational wealth. So, for Jaden, it's like, I want to do that, or am I going to go, to Michigan, do the Jim Harbaugh route, where Jim Harbaugh has flirted with every team in the NFL over the past, 2 seasons I think anybody with a functioning brain is realizing that Harbaugh is eventually going to end up back in the NFL and not going to be there in college. So you're kind of rolling the dice. So for Jaden, I think it's simple. If we get him, great. If we don't, I'll be excited about the next guy. And I know that sounds like a little bit of a cop out, but that's about as honest a Nevada Buck feeling as I can give you, because I have complete confidence in Ryan Day to develop quarterbacks until proven wrong.
Yeah, I literally just don't care about quarterback recruiting at all anymore. Just because with the transfer portal and with kids trying to up the ante and boost their draft stock and potentially be, the next guy, I'm telling you, like Ryan is going to be ultra aggressive in the portal. He's going to be ultra aggressive in recruiting. And if I'm this kid, if I'm Jaden Davis and I have a chance to throw to Brandon Ennis, Cardinal Tate, and then the next year I get JJ Smith. Those are my three receivers. Oh my God. I mean, and then you have Brent Hartline calling the plays. I don't know if Brent's going to call a run the entire year. So you're going to be throwing the crap out of the ball. You're going to have the best receivers in the country. You play in the Big Ten, so you're playing against lesser athletes in the SEC. So you'll be able to torch those guys, put up massive numbers. I mean, Ryan Day's, his offense, his quarterbacking, his quarterback coaching is basically turnkey to become, a high, first round draft pick. It's happened with Haskins. It happened with Fields. It's about to happen with CJ. So there's a lot at stake. I mean, this is it's like a reality TV show, and there's a quarterback derby like this year. And I'm just telling you, like I saw JJ in person 2 weeks ago, and he's a guy that might never leave the Woody Hayes. He's a guy that'll just be on the jugs machine catching about 10,000 balls a day. He's all business, and then Ennis is an absolute. He's the exorcist when he gets on the field. He's such a nut. And then you got Carnell, who is as good as either of them. And I mean, I couldn't imagine a better situation for a 2024 quarterback to walk into than throwing to those three. So that's why I don't care, because again, even if you get like a B plus quarterback with those three guys, we're gonna have A plus production. And there's gonna be transfer portal guys that just dream about playing in Ryan Day's offense and putting up those numbers and just shredding teams, because that's what we've done. I mean, we put up big time numbers. We can throw the ball, and the way our receivers are coached up, they get really, really open. They're great with their leverage throw-bys, great with their releases. That's why these guys, they get so much space. Like, I mean, you watch Garrett Wilson, and I think Garrett Wilson might end up being the best receiver we've ever had, which is insane for me to say that out loud. But the amount of separation he got, at Ohio State, and then even in the NFL this year, is just out of this world. So, again, like if I'm Jaden Davis, I might have gotten, my feelings hurt, but if it's go play in Michigan's offense and, hand it off 3 times and then throw a play action pass, or go play Ryan Day's offense and throw it to JJ Smith, Brandon Ennis, and Tate, I mean, it's not even close, not even the same universe. And then you throw in our fantastic tight end, Jelani Thurman. And I mean, that's as good a receiving core as we've ever had. And you're going to have those guys for multiple years as well. So that's my opinion on it. So if we get, Jaden, or we get Julian Saying, or we get a transfer portal guy to be named later, I'm good. I think we're going to be really good on offense regardless, as long as Ryan and Brian Hartline are here. Thoughts on that, Nevada?
Well, yeah, I mean, you kind of have to retrain your brain when you're thinking about everything in college football, everything Ohio State related, everything depth related, everything depth chart related, everything next year related, because of the transfer portal. Because the transfer portal changes everything, because you can go out and get ready-made guys. You can go out and get All-American. You can go out and get Blitnikoff winners and put them in your starting lineup with the transfer portal. So as a college football fan, the only reason you would ever fret as a college football fan is if your school was not one of the schools that was, a pipeline to the NFL, was not one of the schools that was not highly regarded in terms of being able to develop players, was not a school that at least had a functioning NIL program. And, Ohio State's not in any of those situations. So Ohio State's going to be the benefactor. And as you said, Ryan's going to be picking and choosing. If Ryan doesn't like what he's got in the quarterback room, he's going to go out and grab a guy that's thrown for 10,000 yards already in his college career and plug and play, and off we go. But like I said, as a fan, you got to retrain your brain in terms of how you're thinking about these things, because it's never been like that. It's, I've been a college football fan my whole life, and it's still, it's taken me to a while to kind of switch onto that. But as for all the listeners, man, remember the transfer portal. You can solve all your depth issues, all your your production issues, anything instantly, and that's never been the way it's been before. So it's definitely a change.
Yeah, Matt. Aaron Nolan was a kid that was actually at the tournament that I was at, and he was not participating the day I was there. But good looking kid, man. He has a monster arm. I mean, he's got absolute hose. He's a lefty. Really weird. Some of the coaches down there weren't really that high on him. Ohio State, Brian Hartline really likes him. So that's an interesting one. I think he's a back burner guy right now. That's some film I should probably download and we should probably watch tomorrow. But yeah, I agree with you. I just think that with the portal, it's like back in the days of old signing days, back in, you used to take off work and you'd sit there and watch signing day and hit refresh on rivals.com or scout.com or one of the old boards. Like you knew it was kind of life and death based on who you got in your recruiting class. And it was, oh my God, we didn't get this kid. Oh my God, we didn't get this kid. Oh, we did get this kid. Great. Life's amazing. But now it's like, it's such a temporary victory that it doesn't even really register. Like Tommy Brockermeyer was the number 2 player in the On3 100 last year. 5-star tackle out of Texas. His dad was a longtime NFL guy, goes to Bama, last 1 year at Bama and hits the portal. So, there were people that were popping champagne because they thought they had a 5-star tackle for the next 3-4 years or whatever. And he didn't last, he lasted 1 semester down there. So I think, I love the portal because, for us, when we need a corner, we went out and got a fantastic corner to step in and start right away. If you have big time needs, you're a big time program, there's always kids that you miss on. There's always kids that, end up at Akron or end up at Ball State or end up at Florida International that dream of being a Buckeye or a Hurricane or Alabama Crimson Tide or LSU Tiger or Georgia Bulldog. And it enables them to improve their prospects by being able to go to a program that has the resources and has the development that the big dogs have. And that's something that, if you're one of these guys that Ohio State offered and maybe shouldn't have taken, you've always got to be wary. Like, look, I might have beat that, because back in the day, like when I got offered by Ohio State, nobody else in Ohio did, and I committed. None of those other guys were ever going to get to show up like my junior year and take my job. But now there's guys that, you might beat them out and get that initial offer, but they could start at a lesser school, hit the portal, and then all of a sudden show up at your doorstep and say, hey, remember me? Now I'm going to take your job and you're going to get to watch me, in your jersey colors that you got to commit to out of high school. So that's always a fascinating dynamics. I always feel like, recruiting is just like the NFL draft. There's a lot of misevaluations. There's a lot of guys that outdo their billing. There's a lot of guys that just flat out, they physically change. There's guys that get bigger, leaner, play well, play early, and it changes prospects. Like last year, there was a Florida International tackle, started as a freshman, was a freshman All-American, and after his freshman All-American year, he hit the portal and he had offers from us, from LSU, Georgia, and ended up going to LSU. So, some of these guys that, aren't good enough to play at Ohio State go somewhere lesser, they start right away, and then real quick we figure out, yeah, we should have took that guy. So it's always fascinating to see how this stuff works.
Just for fun. I mean, I love watching Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football or whatever it is when they do the player introductions and they do the offensive line and the offensive line guys all come on and they're like Central Iowa Tech, Eastern Tennessee Community College, Fulbright, Malcolm X school. I mean, like these guys aren't coming from the big schools; they're coming from the little schools, and they're all the starters in the NFL. So that's like, it's tough. It's tough to project any position. It's really tough to project the offensive line. And like I said, with the portal, if you miss, you just go get them the next time around. Or heck, you got 2 bites at the apple. You get them in the December window, or you get them in the May window, and bring them on in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Osiris Torrance, who's from Florida, he's a Florida Gator. He's probably the top guard prospect, potentially a first or second round pick. 3-star, rated 180th in the country at guard coming out of college, and went to a little, like, I think he went to like regular Louisiana, not LSU. hit the portal, transferred to Florida, and turned into one of the top, maybe the top guard in the entire draft. So again, that's where, I think you can see more guys that can move, especially in their third, fourth years when they've started for a couple years. Are these linemen? These linemen that they develop at a quicker rate. They get some reps. They don't have to wait their turn because they go to a smaller school, and then they hit the portal and they end up at Ohio State or USC or Bama or Georgia. Like Alabama last year, their left tackle started 3 years at Vanderbilt. And if you're recruiting against Vanderbilt, you're usually like a Purdue, an Indiana, Cincinnati. Like you're like at that kind of that D-list tier of offers. And then he plays for 3 years and he plays really well. He's like a second team all SEC kid. He transfers to Bama and starts the left tackle. So I think, keep going after these linemen in the portal, man, because there's a lot of these guys that they're MAC guys or they're smaller school guys, and they all dream of, nobody dreams of playing at a MAC school. You dream of playing at Ohio State or Michigan or Georgia or Bama. And a lot of these guys get to realize their dreams a little bit later. I mean, even Davison Igbinison, he was a kid that dreamed of playing at Ohio State. We didn't offer him. So he goes to Ole Miss, freshman All-American, then his dream school is Ohio State, and guess what? He ends up at Ohio State. So worked out great. Nevada, we're at an hour. I'm going to wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts as we watch a little bit more Jaden Davis?
No, it was, we kind of didn't get a chance to dive into it, man. We had so much to talk about today, but it's great to see Glenville back. Glenville win their first state championship under Coach Ted last year, and starting to put out some players, and that's always good for Ohio State when the Glenville pipeline gets going. And Bryce is going to be a really special player at Ohio State, and they've got some young guys behind him that are going to be contributors as well. So the Glenville pipeline's alive and well, and was on display at the combine today.
Yeah, it was a good showing by those guys. Appreciate you guys as always. Another fun show. Great questions as always. Appreciate you guys tuning in. See you guys. See you, Ron. No Sue tonight, so give her some crap next time we see her. Appreciate you, Dave, as always. We do this for an hour every night, man. So we ain't quitting. We just gotta go. Your boy's gotta go get a workout in. But appreciate you guys as always. If you guys enjoy this, the best community there is, BuckeyeScoop.com. We're on that all day. So if you guys, if an hour doesn't scratch the itch, man, jump on BuckeyeScoop.com because it is always cranked up on there. We're always talking football, position battles, recruiting, combine evaluations. Bill Greene's been bringing some incredible recruiting content. So if you love recruiting, Bank is the guy. Nobody beats the Bank. So appreciate you guys as always. If you enjoy this, please click like, click subscribe, comment. What would you change about our offense or defense? I want to hear it. Put it in the comments down below. If you guys are on any of our podcast formats, Spotify, Apple Music, let me know. Give me that 5-star review. Appreciate you guys as always. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. Talk to you guys soon. Go Bucks.